From the outside.
All right, Mom, it's your turn.
Yeah,
So what kind of movies and music and books did you enjoy as a kid?
My favorite book, and I read it until they wouldn't let me. Every year you have to read a book and do a book report.
Yeah.
I did Charlotte's Web clear up until I was in, I don't know, 8th grade.
You did the same book every year?
I loved that book.
That was a good book.
That was my favorite book. And then after that, after Charlotte's Web had to be like probably, I don't know, Kon-Tiki or something like that. Well, that was another one that we were required to read.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't much of a reader when I was younger. I didn't like reading. I'd much rather listen to music or
so what kind of music?
Movies. Oh, I grew up. My grandparents and my parents listened to country, so I remember being a kid. They all listened to country music, and so on Saturday, as my parents were getting ready to go out on their evening alone, their date night, I guess it would be, they'd go square dancing or go to the bar or whatever, and we would have to clean the house, and we would listen to Porter Wagner and Dolly Parton. We'd watch country, watch Hee Haw and everything. I remember when my brother played baseball, one of the other coaches, the manager of the team, he had kids, obviously the same age as my parents, and it was Don Black, and we went over there, and I like to sing, and they were playing my dad couldn't carry a tune in the bucket, and my mom was not interested in, and I wanted to be in the middle. I was kind of like you. I wanted to be in the middle of whatever was going on, especially if music was involved. So they had these books back then with all the lyrics, and the guys were playing their guitars and banjos and stuff, and I was just singing Loretta Lynn and all of them other country songs. And my mom said she wanted to go home, and my dad wasn't ready to go home. He was drinking, and I was singing, and she left us.
Oh, wow.
It was cold too. I mean, it was winter, and she left us. And so him drunk and it cold, and I was a kid. We were walking down Shelby Street. In the middle of the night, we got to the corner of Shelby and Raymond. There was this diner, kind of a place that was open. One of the very few places that was open, like late at night. It was called Gay Dan's. We stopped at Gay Dan's and called my mom, and she said she wasn't going to come and get us. My dad got really angry, and he told her she better well come and get him. Otherwise, she was going to lose her car. He was going to take her car. So
she came and got you.
She came and got us in the middle of the night, but she told us we were going to have to walk home.
Wow. Well, what about movies? Any favorite movies as a kid?
Oh, I remember when I was a kid, we didn't get to go to the movies very often. They didn't have indoor movie theaters very much, but I remember they had one on the Circle. My mama took me to see Dr. Dolittle with the Push Me Pull Yous, and I was so sad because she didn't drive. Mama didn't drive back then, and she would had to catch the bus to get home, and so about halfway through the movie, we had to leave so we could catch the bus so we could go home. And I was sad. And then there was a drive-in theater where Myra is now on 135. It was called the Meridian Drive-In. I got to go see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs there, only I fell asleep. But I really liked that one. And we watched a lot of movies. Like every Sunday, Disney had their 2-hour special or 1 hour, I don't remember, but some of the movies you could watch on a Sunday night, and some of them you had to wait until the next week and watch. But it was always so much fun. It was a Sunday, what did they call that, Dennis? The Sunday, the Disney thing on Sunday where we'd watch the movies, like Old Yeller and stuff like that.
I remember them do that when I was a kid too. They still did that.
Yeah.
It's like a Disney Sunday special.
Yes, that's what it was called, Disney Sunday Special.
Yeah. So you said you went to the Circle to watch a movie, like Monument Circle, downtown Indy?
Yeah.
Where did they show a movie there?
There was a theater. It's called the...
like the Hilbert Circle Theater?
No, it was right there on the...
But there was a movie theater on the Circle?
On the Circle.
Huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's been
I didn't know they had a movie
okay. I'm
theater there.
64.
there.
Gosh, that's had to be 50.
50 years
Almost
ago.
60 years ago.
Wow.
I always went to drive-ins once. Never went to indoor theaters.
So were drive-ins more common?
Yes, there were a lot of drive-in theaters. There was the South 31, which is, let's see, South 31. That's where.
Got food, wasn't it?
No. South 31 was right there in Greenwood,
Oh yeah,
just
just
where the
south of Smith
Aldi
Valley,
is.
right?
No, it was right there where the Aldi is.
Okay.
On
stop 18.
Yeah, April Drive, where the Cadillac Lockhart Cadillac and that big area right there where the Aldi warehouse and stuff is.
Yeah,
that used to be South 31, and then there was one on 135 where the Meyer is now.
You guys
that
took us to a South View, didn't you?
That was up on Southview was 37, just right there off of 465.
Okay.
And they had the Tibbs drive-in.
That's the only one that's still there now, just about.
They had a lot of them back then. They didn't have a lot of indoor theaters, so movies were definitely a summer event.
Interesting. So any of your childhood friends that you still have remained in contact with?
Debbie Evans. It's probably the only one.
Was that Aunt Debbie?
Aunt Debbie.
That we call. Okay, I remember that. I remember her and Uncle Fuzzy Face.
Uncle Fuzzy.
They're not together anymore, are they?
No, after his automobile crash. I've seen other people that I went to school with, and I don't even get to talk to Debbie that much, but she's probably the only one.
So the other people, it's just like you might see them here and there, like at Walmart or something, like, right? But you don't really communicate with them much.
No, not at all.
So what did you do for fun when you were a kid?
I went with my mama.
I went with
Mama and Papa. Yes, what I did for fun when I was a kid was I would go over and spend the weekends. Every weekend I could possibly go spend with Mama and Papa. I did, and we go out to the farm. We didn't do anything special. We went and seen Mama and Papa's brothers and sisters, like Aunt Ole and Uncle Doc and Aunt May and Ole and Beverly. But you had to go see Ole and Beverly early, because they go to bed with the chickens. And Mama would always tell me that when I was a little kid that I would say, I want to go see the chickens. I want to go see the chickens, which meant I wanted to go see Aunt Ole. Yeah. And then we on special times, we'd go down to Great Grandpa's and see Aunt Surrey, Aunt Surrey, Uncle Ed, and we'd make butter and Aunt Surrey, we'd have fried chicken. Aunt Surrey, she'd grab 2 chickens like this, you see? And she'd go, 1, 2, and on the third one, she'd pull up really hard, and the bodies would go flying, and she still had the heads in her hand, and we had to go find our dinner.
And they'd keep running, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah, they were out in the cornfield somewhere. And then she'd dip them in this hot boiling water, and then she'd pull all the feathers off of them, but yeah.
Now, was Aunt Surrey your Papa's sister?
Aunt Surrey was Papa's sister. Papa had 2 sisters, Aunt Surrey and Aunt May. And Aunt May, Papa's sister, married Uncle Doc, which was Mama's brother. Oral Doc.
So that's where the double first cousins came in.
And what's really even worse was, did you know this? My Aunt May and Uncle Doc's, their kid, our double first cousin, Jeanette, she married my dad's brother. Yeah, my mom got this brainy idea that, they're not related in any way, shape, or form. And Jeanette had 3 kids, and my dad's brother, Joe, had a couple of kids, and neither one of them had spouses anymore. And so she introduced them, and next thing you know, they got married and had another kid. So I don't know what kind of relation that kid was to me. Was he a first cousin through my dad's side, or was he a double first cousin through my mom's side? That was messed up.
So just to be clear, there's no incest in our family, though.
No. No
incest. There's no inbreeding.
No inbreeding. And because something kind of similar happened with Mama's. I told you they're all go by weird names. They're all O's,
right.
but I think it was Calvin. When Mama's mom died in childbirth when she was 9, a couple of years later, back then, you needed 2 people because you needed a woman to watch over they didn't have babysitters. They lived down on a farm. And the older kids done the best to watch the younger kids, but they really needed a mom, somebody to cook and so take care of women's
marriage
work.
Wasn't just for love. It was like a business arrangement for
a partnership.
Yeah, partnership. You needed it, yeah.
Yeah, you needed a partner. Women who had a husband die would usually move in with other family members, but men who had children and their wife died, they got married pretty quick. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he married this other woman who had kids, and by that time, Mama's brother was older. He was in the army already, mm-hmm. and I think it was Calvin, but he married his stepsister, Corey, mm-hmm. and they had kids. That's where, remember Roberta and Ernie Ham?
Oh yeah,
that was
Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, Bert and Ernie, and the twins, the girls, Marilyn and Carolyn. Mm-hmm. That's how they
came to be.
Yeah, and everybody goes, "Ooh, they married," but they were stepsister, and they didn't grow up together. They were already grown up when the parents got married. Right.
So it's all right.
It was just kind of weird.
So what are your most memorable moments from elementary school?
From elementary school. I remember I was always a good student. And Mr. Lashbrook, he was funny because he didn't point at you this way. He didn't point at you this way. Always like this. Always like this. And I was in first grade. And I had done something and the teacher told me not to do it again. And normally I was very obedient, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. But I did it again and she stood me in the corner. And Mr. Lashbrook came in and he goes, "Who's that pretty girl standing in the corner?" And I just about died. Broke my heart because he saw me standing in the corner. Somebody who was being disobedient. So.
You didn't want to be the bad kid.
I didn't. And the other really, my dad worked for Colonial Bread Company, and he had these great big pink pencils that he would bring home. They're you set on the side, and they're bright pink. It said Colonial Bakery. And this one girl, my 4th grade year, this one girl, she was a pain in my butt. We had 4th and 5th grade in the same classroom. Mm-hmm. No, 5th grade. 5th and 6th grade, sorry. And she was mean. And she would put tacks on my chair, and I would sit on them, and I had, she was just mean. And so she would get in my desk and steal my stuff. Well, I could prove that she stole my pencils because they were those great big pink Colonial, and she told the teacher, Mrs. Nichols, she says, "She gave it to me." And I said, "I did not." Well, Mrs. Nichols just believed her and didn't believe me, and she kept my pencils, and so I got in trouble a lot in my 5th grade year because I didn't have supplies like I was supposed to. But it wasn't my fault.
Right. All right, well, what advice would you give a teenager now?
Enjoy your time as a kid. It's okay to work. Having a job is a good thing, but don't get so busy doing everything that you don't enjoy. You don't ever have the time to spend really developing any kind of relationships. Mm-hmm. Make priorities and just enjoy the time. Just have. Like I said, though, it's a good thing to have a job and have some spending money, but you don't have to do everything. You still got a lot of years in life.
Oh yeah,
got a lot of years in life, and it's not that important. It's just not.
Right, it's true. Did you have any influential teachers or coaches as a kid? Mr. Lashbrook.
I like Mr. Lashbrook. Mr. McGrew was my band teacher. I loved Mr. McGrew. He was awesome.
Was that in middle school or high school?
Middle school, and I got to be in high school. I didn't get a march because my ninth grade year, my parents decided that it would be best for our family if I went away to a private school. So they sent me up to Willoughby, Ohio, and I was in I was in private school until I couldn't be anymore. I got hooked up with the wrong kids. That's why that thing with the teenagers, be intentional with your relationships, because I got hooked up with the wrong kids. And because we were a live-in school and not, I was Cleveland. I mean, I was not Cleveland. Yes, Cleveland. I was almost.
They sent you to Cleveland, Ohio, all by yourself, just to live on campus at a private school.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there for the whole year?
No.
Didn't last long.
Well, not really. What happened was they assigned a senior,
like a mentor.
Yeah.
Right.
And they called them your big sister. This was your big sister, and they were supposed to watch out and kind of guide you along. Well, my big sister was not the best big sister there was. Her mother was a pharmacist, and so she had pills that she would bring to school. And back then in Ohio, the drinking age was 18 or 19, and so there was a lot of things I wasn't allowed to do because we didn't have a lot of money, and so I couldn't do the horse lessons and be with the popular girls. And so one day we had an outing, and we went to the mall, and my big sister went to the grocery store that was in the mall, was a Kroger, and she bought all kinds of Mad Dog 2020 and Boone's Farms, Strawberry Hill wine. And we went out into the loading dock at Sears and sat in the loading dock, me and my big sister and some other girls, and sat there. And the whole time we were there, I either had a bottle of wine or a cup with the mixture in it, and she would she gave me handfuls, two pretty good sized handfuls of Valiums.
Oh.
And so when we got ready to get on the bus to go back to school, they kept telling me that I needed to be straight, walk straight, be straight. And we went to Burger King, and I went into the bathroom, and luckily I vomited everywhere because with all the pills and alcohol that I had consumed,
could have killed you.
Almost killed me.
Wow.
Well, yeah. Luckily, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but luckily when they called my parents, they kept telling me that I was a good student and I was going to get to stay there, and they just had to call my mom and dad and tell them what happened. They didn't tell me that my parents were on the way to come and get me. And I overheard them in the hall, so I managed to escape, and the police found me. But my mom, when they were getting ready to come and get me, she stepped off the porch the wrong way and sprained both of her ankles, so she wasn't able to come in the truck. It was back then speed limit was only 55 and didn't have interstate up there. It took like 13 hours
to get to Cleveland from Indiana.
Yeah. And so luckily my papa came with my dad to get me, because I was just sure that he was going to beat I thought he was going to beat me to death. He didn't even talk to me, luckily.
Your papa wouldn't let that happen.
My dad didn't touch me in front of my parents. So
in front of your grandparents.
From my grandparents, yeah. And he didn't speak to me all the way back. It was awful. It was awful. But yeah, I didn't. So I had to go back to Whiteland, and
oh, you have a soft spot back there you don't like.
So I know you didn't really talk. The question was any of your teachers that were influential. You said your band director. What did you play in band? Because you were
I was a flute.
played flute.
I played flute. I played flute 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I started to play in 9th grade when I came back. But there was a lot of things going on at home, and so I didn't get to. But
Anymore.
I really enjoyed. I did get a march. We marched in the parade, and I sat second chair to Susan Sparks. She had no life she was kind of like
she was the Aaron Chandler of flute.
Well, no, it was worse than that. The only thing she did was play the flute and do academics. She was a straight A student, and she was sat first chair. And I mean, I challenged her. I got close. Mr. McGrew said I was really close several times, but I just
couldn't quite.
I just couldn't quite get past her. And I was like, and eventually I kind of gave up.
So, any members of your extended family that you were close to, besides obviously your grandparents?
Mama and Papa,
yeah,
and my great grandpa.
What about cousins and aunts and uncles?
I didn't have any cousins. Well, I did have cousins, but see, that's a long story. But
because your mom,
my mom was an only child, and my dad, they didn't.
You already told the story about basically he was estranged from most of his family, so
therefore, right. In my 8th grade years, my 8th grade year school, I was forced to go live with my Aunt Rose and Uncle Luther and their 3 girls. But there's so much age difference between me and them that we didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a good experience either.
Oh no.
You don't have to talk about that. So, who were your childhood friends, your closest friends?
Debbie Evans.
The one that you still are probably closest to.
Yeah.
So how long did you know her?
I met her my first day of 6th grade.
Of 6th grade, okay.
Of 6th grade, because that's when we moved to Whiteland. And I wish that no, I don't. God has a reason, and He turns all things together for good to those who love the Lord, and those are called according to His purpose. But I was never really accepted anywhere, so I got the kids who were the bad kids, the quote unquote bad kids.
Right. So that's why you knew Jeff and Jerry too. They were bad kids.
Well, I didn't think they were bad kids at the time.
They were just the rebellious ones.
We made bad choices. How's that?
Jeff and Jerry.
We made bad choices.
Right.
We I don't know what went on in their lives at their homes, but I know that there was Jeff and Jerry and Tony Kirkendall, his brother Bobby was. I went with Bobby. Oh, I forgot to tell you. You asked me last time about my work. My first real job was in between 7th and 8th grade. I detasseled corn, and I got a paycheck for that.
Oh, cool.
And what did I do with the money? I was forced to buy all my clothes for school because I had money. If I wanted clothes, I had to buy them.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah. No, it was Tony Kirkendall. I found out after I grew up. Tony Kirkendall, I was very, very lucky that I didn't get arrested because he was one of the biggest drug dealers in Johnson County.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. He was when I ran away one of the times, him and Bobby, they let me sneak in the window, and I would go sleep in their closet or under their bed.
And that was in high school?
No, I was in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Middle school, high school, yeah.
So what's one of the craziest things from a teenager, your teenage years, that you haven't shared yet?
I got married.
I guess, yeah, that's probably one of the craziest things. Getting married at 16.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody thought that we had to get married, and that was never the case. I didn't have to get married. We got married because I wanted out.
Yeah. And I know you already told me about when you got in trouble for skipping school. But is there another time that you got in the most trouble with your parents?
Well, when I was younger, my mother would get angry with me and my brothers. And if we were in the car, she would push the accelerator all the way to the floor and head for some immovable object, a tree, a telephone pole, whatever. And she'd say, "I'm just going to kill us all. I'm going to kill us all." by the time I was 3, I had been to the hospital 3 different times for major things. Back in the day, cans you didn't open with a can, or you could open some of them with a can opener like this. Do you ever remember the ones that had the keys? Like Spam, you put the little thing in there with the key, and you'd roll it around, and then you'd pull it off, and had this really sharp edge. Well, my parents were young when they had me, and they put one of those cans. It was a candy back then, and you put the can in the. They put the can in the sandbox with me, and I stepped on it, and I had to go to the hospital and have my foot all sewed up because it sliced it really bad. I told you how much I love spending time with my mama and papa. Well, my papa was coming to pick me up, and my mother said that I couldn't go because I was sick, that she was going to send one of the boys. No, just had to be Eddie because Bill wasn't born yet. She was going to send Eddie because I was sick and I couldn't go. So I thought, if 2 baby aspirins will get me well in a couple of days, if I take the whole bottle, I'll be well by the time Papa comes to pick me up. So I took the entire bottle of baby aspirins, and they had to go pump my stomach.
And how old were you?
Less than 3. By the time I was 3, I had to go to the hospital 3 times. And the last time I went was my mom and my dad were fighting about my dad's brother living at the house with them. And she got mad, my mother did, and picked me up and threw me against the wall and broke my arm.
Oh my gosh.
I was in trouble a lot. I was always in trouble.
Well, that didn't sound like it wasn't your fault.
Well, after my dad's brother raped me when I was 4, I was always, everything was my fault. Everything was my fault. No, that's what my mom told me, that all their problems, all the family problems. Oh yeah, it was my fault. It was my fault. It was just my fault.
Well, thanks for not continuing that. Not blaming us as kids. Like you didn't behave in the way your mom did to us.
I remember being.
Thank you for not continuing that. Is what I meant.
Well, what I know, I remember we lived on Alabama Street, and I remember sitting on my swing set, swinging, and I would always dream about having kids, my own kids. I wanted my own kids. That's probably the best thing that I've ever done in my life, was have my kids. And I would say nobody is going to hurt my kids. Nobody is going to treat my kids bad. Nobody is going to harm my kids. And when your sperm donor hurt your brother, that was it. One time, that was all it took. I'm not letting it happen a second time.
Well, and that's why I said thank you, because I know it's really common for abused people to become abusers themselves.
It was hard sometimes.
You chose to not do that. And I'm sure instinctually, when that's all you've ever known, it's easier said than done sometimes. But
you want to hear a scary story about Marcus?
What happened?
When he was little, we lived down at Fort Campbell. It was before you were born, before I was even pregnant with you. And he kept having one ear infection after another, and I found out why. It's because I was so large-breasted and I breastfed that he would lay almost flat, and the milk would go back into the back of his ears. Well, and when a little baby's in pain, they cry. They cry a lot.
Yeah.
And I was stuck out in the country in the middle of freaking nowhere because we had big snowstorm and snow up to my knees at least. And we'd been there for days and days, and he was sick, and he was crying and crying and crying. And it scared me at the time, and it makes me feel sad now. But he would crying so much, I took him into his bedroom and sat him down in the bed really hard, or I felt like it was really hard. And he was crying, and I went and I ran over to the door of the bedroom, and I looked at him. I felt like the Hulk because I go, stop! And then I ran outside and sat in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided right then and there that nobody was going to do that. I wasn't going to hurt him. I mean, I wanted to. Oh, I wanted to so bad.
Right.
But there was no way I was going to do to my children what would have been done to me.
Right.
So, yeah, that was... We've had some weird things in our past, but for the most part, I've tried to make everything better for you kids the best I could.
And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I know I was not perfect. There's a lot of things I'd change if I could. I can't.
But I'm happy with the way things are now.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, welcome.